Hello, my friend. I am the sleepy scholar. I know why you are here. The world is loud, and you need a quiet place to rest your mind. I am here to help you do just that. Before we fade into the dark, if you find peace in these videos, please like and subscribe to support the channel. And I'm curious, where are you listening from, and what time is it there? Let me know in the comments. Now, put your phone aside and find your most comfortable position. Let's count down from 10 together, to leave the day behind. 10. Take a deep breath in. And let it out. 9. Close your eyes. 8. Relax your jaw and your face. 7. Let your shoulders drop. 6. Feel the weight of your body sinking into the bed. 5. You are safe here. 4. Let go of today's thoughts. 3. Deeper and deeper. 2. Your mind is quiet. 1. Completely relax. As I tell you, tonight's sleep story. Tonight we're gonna tuck you into the hot sand of ancient Nubia. Don't worry, I'll fan away the mosquitoes in your imagination. Picture this. You're wearing a linen robe that's already soaked through with sweat, sand sticking to your ankles like wet clay, and in front of you stands an old man with a gold ring in his ear, holding a stick that looks no fancier than a dog's chew toy. You call yourself a traitor, he snorts, poking the stick into the ground. If you can't tell noon from sunset, you'll either get robbed by Bedouins or baked into a date cake by the sun. Welcome to Nubia. You might not even survive your first day if you don't watch the shadows. This is your first day as an apprentice to Khnum, the most famous gold trader in Meroë. The air smells like camel dung and myrrh, and somewhere a kid is yelling about a runaway goat. Khnum's stall is strung with gold necklaces that glint like liquid sunlight. Nubia's nickname is Land of Gold for a reason, and not just because everyone here has a tan that makes bronze look pale. He shoves the stick into the sand harder, and you notice there are faint notches carved into its side. That's your new boss, he says, nodding at the stick. Sun moves, shadow moves. Learn its language, or go back to herding goats in Egypt. You kneel down, the sand burning through your robe. The stick's shadow is long and thin, pointing toward the east like a finger. Khnum plucks a date from a basket and pops it into his mouth. Mainstream stuff first. Nubia's the bridge between the Sahara and the Nile. All the gold from the south, from the mines near the 6th waterfall, comes through here before it goes to Egypt, Rome, even as far as Arabia. He wipes date juice off his chin. You think the Egyptian pharaohs wore all that bling because they found it under their beds? Nope, they bought it from guys like me, or stole it, but we don't talk about that. A group of Egyptian merchants walks by, their linen kilts starched stiff. One glares at Khnum's gold display, and Khnum glares right back. Here's your weird fact for the day, he says, lowering his voice. We don't use coins for small stuff. Want a loaf of bread? Hand over a hippopotamus ivory chip. Need to pay the camel boy. A handful of ostrich eggs works, but don't let them get warm, stink like a dead jackal. He pulls a tiny hippopotamus ivory statue from his pocket, its surface carved with little spirals. This is worth 3 loaves. Light, doesn't rust, and the camels don't try to eat it. Beat that, Egyptian copper coins. You're still staring at the hippopotamus ivory when Khnum flicks your ear. Eyes on the shadow. See how it's inching toward the first notch. That's first hour after sunrise. By the time it hits the middle notch, straight under the stick, no lean, that's noon. Hot enough to cook an egg on a stone, and every trader in the market takes a nap. But here's the kicker, historians still debate whether we Nubians invented this shadow trick, or copied it from the Egyptians. He kicks a sandal at the Egyptian merchant's feet. They say we stole everything. I say they couldn't find gold if it bit them on the ankle. Prove it. Our sticks have more notches. We trade with desert nomads who need to time their trips by the stars too, not just river folks. The shadow creeps a little farther, and a woman with a red clay paste on her cheeks walks over, holding a leather pouch. Khnum, my husband's gold necklace, you said noon, she says, raising an eyebrow. Khnum nods at you. Tell her where the shadow is. You swallow hard. It's almost to the second notch. So about 2 hours after sunrise. Noon still an hour away. The woman smiles, revealing a gold tooth. Good. Last apprentice told me it was noon at sunrise. Khnum made him carry water for the camels. She hands over the pouch, and you catch a glimpse of gold dust inside, fine as powdered sugar, glowing even in the shade. Khnum dumps a little gold dust into his palm and blows on it. You'll learn fast, or you'll be carrying water. Now, help me pack these necklaces, we're going to the river port. The boat from Egypt is due when the shadow hits the 3rd notch, and if we're late, the captain'll sell our spot to the ivory traders. And don't step in the camel poop, last guy did, and the camels followed him around all day. Think they wanted their poop back. You laugh, but when you look down, you realize you're already standing in a pile. Khnum snorts. Welcome to the team. You grab a leather bag of necklaces and follow Khnum toward the Nile. The sand shifts under your feet, and you keep glancing at the stick he's carrying, now tucked under his arm, the shadow still inching along. Somewhere, a flute plays a slow tune, and a group of kids chases a goat past you, yelling. You think about the shadow, about how a simple stick can tell time, about the gold in your bag that's been dug from the desert by men who also watch the shadows to know when to stop working. It's not just sticks and sand, you realize. It's how Nubia keeps going, one shadow at a time. As you walk, Khnum points to a row of stone buildings ahead. That's the port. See the big obelisk? The pharaohs gave it to us, after we beat them in a war. Don't tell the Egyptian merchants I said that. He winks, and you grin. The shadow on his stick is getting shorter now, moving toward the middle notch. Noon is coming, but first, you have a boat to catch. And for the first time since you arrived in Nubia, you don't feel like you're gonna get baked into a date cake. You feel like you're starting to learn the language of the sand, and the shadows. The Nile breeze hits you as soon as you reach the port, cool and damp compared to the desert heat. You let the leather bag slide off your shoulder and lean against a stone pillar, watching boats bob in the water. Most are small fishing skiffs, their hulls painted bright blue, but one larger boat is tied up at the dock, its sails emblazoned with the Egyptian symbol for gold. Khnum strides toward it, his stick still in hand, and you hurry to catch up. The Egyptian captain, a man with a bald head and a scar across his cheek, is arguing with a Nubian porter. The shadows not at the notch yet, the captain shouts. You said third notch, this is second and a half. Khnum clears his throat, and both men turn. My apprentice will tell you the time, he says, nodding at you. You freeze, but then you remember the stick, you've been watching it the whole walk. The shadow on your stick, if it's like ours, has 5 notches before noon, you say, your voice steady. The sun moves 1 notch every hour. Right now, the shadow's halfway between the second and third notch. So 2.5 hours after sunrise. You said, third notch, we're early. But if you keep yelling at the porter, we'll be late. The captain's mouth drops open, and Khnum claps you on the back. Told you he's quick. The porter grins and helps you load the necklaces onto the boat. As you work, Khnum pulls you aside. Mainstream lesson, Nubia's been trading gold with Egypt for 3,000 years. Back when the pharaohs were building pyramids, they sent armies down here to steal gold, but by my grandfather's time, we were the ones in charge. We built our own pyramids, too, more than Egypt, actually. 230 of them, if you count the small ones. He nods toward the south, where the desert meets the sky. You can see them from the gold mines. Smaller than Egypt's, but sturdier. We don't need giant pyramids to prove we're rich, we just need gold. You pause, wiping sweat from your brow. A group of women walks by, carrying clay pots on their heads. Each pot is painted with tiny black lines, just like the notches on the stick. Weird fact, those pots aren't just for water. We mix animal fat and red clay into a paste, slather it on our skin, and it keeps the sun off. Smells like a cow's backyard, but it works better than linen. My sister wears it every day, her skin's softer than a date, even in the desert. He wrinkles his nose. Though I don't let her hug me after she puts it on. Stains my robes. The captain calls over, saying the boat's ready to depart. You and Khnum climb aboard, and the sailors push off from the dock. The Nile glides past, green and cool, and you watch the shoreline shrink. Khnum sits down on a wooden bench and pulls out a date, tossing one to you. Academic debate time. Historians still debate whether the Kerma culture, our first big kingdom, was a real country or just a bunch of tribes with a common gold mine. The Egyptians called us barbarians, but we had cities, temples, and a king who wore a crown of gold and ivory. Sounds like a country to me. He takes a bite of the date. But the scholars in Alexandria, they say we didn't count until we conquered Egypt. Gold counts more than crowns. You bite into the date, sweet and sticky, and look at the stick propped against the bench. Its shadow is now a little past the third notch. We're heading to the gold mines, right? You ask. Khnum nods. The miners send gold dust down the river every full moon, but this month, they found a vein, big enough to make necklaces for the Queen of Rome. We need to get there before the Bedouins hear about it. They'll try to steal it, and trust me, their shadow sticks are just as good as ours. They can track a camel by its shadow at dusk. A sailor starts singing a song in Nubian, his voice deep and low. The other sailors join in, and even the Egyptian captain taps his foot. You lean back, letting the breeze ruffle your hair, and watch the shadow on the stick. It's getting shorter and shorter, moving toward the middle notch, noon. Somewhere on the shore, a bell rings, and Khnum stands up. Time for lunch, he says, pulling a leather pouch from his robe. Inside are flatbread, cheese, and a bottle of beer. Beer's our other currency, he says, handing you a cup. Pay a miner with a jug of this, and he'll give you extra gold dust. Tastes better than Egyptian beer, too, less bitter. You take a sip of the beer, warm and slightly sweet, and look out at the Nile. The sun is high overhead now, the shadow on the stick just a tiny dot under the wood, noon. The sailors stop singing and sit down to eat, and the boat drifts slowly with the current. Khnum clinks his cup against yours. You're doing good, apprentice. By the time we get back, you'll be able to tell the time by the shadow of a camel's hump. And when that happens, I'll let you handle the Roman traders. They're tricky, they use sundials with numbers, not notches, but they pay in silver, which is easier to carry than gold. You smile, taking another sip of beer. The Nile flows on, and the shadow on the stick starts to stretch again, this time toward the west. Afternoon is here, and the gold mines are getting closer. You think about the miners, working deep in the desert, watching the shadows to know when to stop. About the women slathering on animal fat and clay, the kids chasing goats, the sailors singing. All of them, connected by the sun and its shadows, by the gold that glints in the light. You're not just an apprentice anymore, you realize. You're part of the Nubian rhythm, slow, steady, and as constant as the shadow on a stick. The boat docks at a small village just as the shadow on Khnum's stick hits the fourth notch, 3 hours past noon. The village is made of mud brick huts, their roofs thatched with palm leaves, and the air smells like wood smoke and roasting meat. A group of miners, their faces smudged with dirt, are waiting at the dock, carrying leather bags heavy with gold. Khnum greets them with handshakes and jokes, and they hand over the bags. You heft one, surprisingly heavy, even for its size. Gold's denser than you think, Khnum says, noticing your struggle. Carry it for an hour, and your arm will feel like it's made of sand. You follow the miners into the village, and Khnum pulls you aside to show you a stone building with carvings on the walls. Mainstream knowledge, this is a temple to Ammonius, our god of gold and the sun. The carvings show our king, Pi, conquering Egypt. See that? He's holding a gold scepter and a shadow stick. We didn't just fight with swords, we fought with time. We knew when the Egyptian armies would march, at dawn, when the shadow is long, and when they'd rest, noon, when the shadow is short. That's how we beat them. He taps the carving. Smart beats strong every time. Even in the desert. A miner's wife walks over, carrying a basket of figs. She hands one to you, and you bite into it, juicy and sweet. Weird fact, miners here use ostrich eggshells to carry water. They drill a hole in the top, fill it up, and seal it with wax. It keeps water cool for 3 days, longer than a clay pot. My brother-in-law once crossed the Sahara with 5 of them. Said they saved his life. Though he did say the eggs made him look like a walking bird's nest. She laughs, and her kids, 2 boys covered in sand, run over, tugging at your robe. Khnum tells the miners about the Bedouin threat, and they nod seriously. One miner, a tall man with a gray beard, pulls out a knife and sharpens it. We'll guard the gold tonight, he says. The Bedouins won't come until dusk, when the shadow is long enough to hide in. We'll be ready. Khnum claps him on the back, then turns to you. Academic argument, historians still debate whether how far our trade routes went. Some say we only traded with Egypt and Rome, but we found a Nubian gold bead in India once, carved with our spiral symbol. How'd it get there? On a ship? A camel caravan? No one knows. But I bet it was a trader with a good shadow stick. You can't get across the desert without knowing when to stop for water. As dusk falls, the shadow on Khnum's stick stretches long and thin, pointing west. The miners build a fire in the center of the village, and the women cook a stew of lentils and meat. You sit down next to Khnum, and he hands you a cup of tea, spiced with cinnamon, warm and comforting. Tonight, we'll sleep in the temple, he says. Safer than the huts. The Bedouins won't attack a temple, they believe the gods watch over them. Though I'll still set a watch. Never trust a Bedouin who knows how to read shadows. You help the miners carry the gold into the temple, stacking the leather bags against a stone wall. The temple is cool and dark, and the air smells like incense. Carvings of gold mines and traders cover the walls, and in the center, there's a statue of Ammonius, his skin painted with gold leaf, his eyes made of obsidian. Khnum lights a torch, and the flames dance on the statue. Ammonius' shadow falls on the gold every noon, he says. We believe that blesses it, makes it pure. The Egyptians laugh at us, but their gold doesn't shine as bright as ours. Coincidence? I think not. One of the miners starts telling a story about a Bedouin raid years ago, how they used the shadow of a palm tree to hide until the last minute. You listen, sipping your tea, and watch the fire outside. The shadow of the temple door stretches across the sand, long and dark. You think about how shadows are everywhere here, on the stick, on the sand, on the walls of the temple. They're not just darkness, they're information. They tell time, they hide enemies, they bless gold. They're part of what makes Nubia. Nubia. Khnum stands up, stretching. Time for bed, he says. I'll take the first watch. You sleep, Tomorrow, we'll head back to Meroë. The Roman traders will be there, and I want you to handle the negotiations. You can use your shadow stick to prove we're on time. They love that ancient wisdom stuff. Makes them pay more. He winks, and you grin. You curl up on a pile of palm leaves, and the last thing you see before you fall asleep is the torchlight, casting Khnum's shadow on the wall, tall, steady, like the stick he carries. Outside, the wind whispers through the palm trees, and somewhere a dog barks. Tomorrow, you'll be a trader. Tonight, you're just a boy, or girl, in a temple, safe under the shadow of the gods, and a good stick. You wake up to the sound of Khnum's voice, low and urgent. Wake up, we need to leave before sunrise. The Bedouins were here last night, but they didn't dare attack the temple. But they'll be waiting for us on the road. You jump up, grabbing your robe and the stick Khnum gave you the day before. He'd carved notches into it while you slept. The temple is dark, but you can see the faint glow of dawn through the door. You follow Khnum outside, and the cool morning air hits you, making you shiver. The miners are loading the gold onto camels, their faces grim. One of them hands you a bowl of porridge, warm and thick. Eat, he says. Long ride to Meroë. The road goes through the desert, no shade, no water until noon. You eat quickly, and Khnum pulls you aside, pointing to the sky. The sun is just starting to peek over the horizon, painting the clouds pink and orange. Mainstream tip, the desert is dangerous at dawn. The shadows are long, so you can't see who's hiding behind them. But if we leave now, we'll reach the oasis by the time the shadow hits the first notch. That's where we'll rest. He mounts a camel, and you climb onto one next to him. Its fur is rough, but it's warmer than the sand. The camels start walking, and the desert stretches out before you, endless sand, golden in the dawn light. You hold on to your stick, sticking it into the sand as you ride, watching the shadow grow shorter. Weird fact, Bedouins use the shadow of their camels to tell time, too, but they count the humps. A camel's shadow at dawn is as long as 3 humps, at noon, it's just 1. Clever, but not as accurate as our notches. Khnum laughs. Though I once saw a Bedouin tell time by the shadow of his turban. Said it worked, when the gods are in a good mood. The sun climbs higher, and the shadow on your stick shrinks to the first notch. You spot the oasis ahead, green and lush, a dot in the desert. The camels speed up, eager for water, and you feel a wave of relief. When you reach the oasis, the miners let the camels drink, and you sit down under a palm tree. Khnum pulls out a leather bag and hands you a piece of gold, small, but bright. For your first successful trip, he says. You earned it. Now, academic debate. Historians still debate whether how we Nubians learned to smelt gold. Some say the Egyptians taught us, but we found a smelting furnace in Kerma that's older than Egypt's. We were turning gold ore into necklaces while the Egyptians were still using stone tools. He grins. Gold runs in our blood, literally, if you believe the old stories. A group of travelers passes by, merchants from Arabia, carrying silk and spices. They stop to trade, and Khnum lets you handle the deal. You use your stick to show them it's almost noon, and they laugh, impressed. Nubian shadow magic, one of them says, handing you a bolt of silk. Worth more than gold in my country. You smile, and Khnum claps you on the back. See? Told you the stick would help. Traders trust people who understand time, means you're reliable. Means you won't cheat them. Afternoon, when the shadow is at its shortest, you leave the oasis and head back into the desert. The sun is hot, but you wear the red clay paste the miners' wives gave you, sticky, but it keeps the sun off. You watch your stick's shadow stretch westward, and Khnum points out landmarks, a rock that looks like a camel, a dried-up riverbed. We'll reach Meroë when the shadow hits the 4th notch, he says. Just in time for the Roman traders' feast. They're bringing wine, awful stuff, but it's free. As you ride, you think about everything you've learned, how to read a shadow, how to carry gold, how to trade with Egyptians and Arabs and Bedouins. You think about the pyramids to the south, the gold mines in the desert, the Nile flowing north. Nubia is more than sand and gold, it's a people who learn to turn the sun's light into time, into trade, into power. You grip your stick tighter, feeling the notches under your fingers. They're not just marks, they're history, carved into wood. Your history, now. The sun starts to set, painting the desert orange and purple. The shadow on your stick is long now, past the 4th notch. You see Meroë ahead, its mud brick walls glinting in the sunset, the pyramids rising in the distance. The Roman traders' tents are set up outside the city, colorful and loud. Khnum whoops, and the camels speed up. We're home, he says. And we're on time. The Romans will be impressed. And if not, we'll show them the gold. Gold always impresses. You ride into Meroë, and the people cheer. They know Khnum is back with a big load of gold. Kids run alongside the camels, yelling, and women wave from the doorways of their huts. You feel a surge of pride, holding your stick high. The shadow stretches behind you, long and tall, like a friend. Tonight, you'll feast with the Romans. Tomorrow, you'll trade the gold. And every day after that, you'll watch the shadow on your stick, and know exactly where you are, on the road, in the desert, in Nubia. Home. The Roman feast is in full swing when you and Khnum arrive at their camp. Torches blaze, casting orange light on the tents, and a band plays music on flutes and drums. The Roman trader in charge, a man named Marcus with a curly beard and a toga that's clearly too hot for the desert, greets you with a handshake. Khnum. And the famous apprentice who reads shadows, he says, clapping you on the back. I heard you outsmarted the Egyptian captain. Impressive. Come, eat, drink, and let's talk gold. You sit down at a table loaded with food, roasted lamb, olives, bread, and a large bowl of fruit. Marcus pours you a cup of wine, which is indeed awful, sour and bitter. You take a small sip and push it aside, reaching for a date instead. Khnum leans in, lowering his voice. Mainstream info. The Romans have been trading with us for 50 years, ever since Caesar visited Egypt. They love our gold, use it to make coins, jewelry for their empresses, even leaf for their statues. But they're cheap. They'll try to pay you in silver, but hold out for gold. Silver tarnishes. Gold lasts forever. A Roman servant brings over a plate of honey cakes, and you take one, sweet and sticky, just like Nubian dates. Weird fact, Romans don't use shadow sticks. They have these big stone sundials in their cities, with numbers carved into them. But they're useless in the desert, too heavy to carry. Marcus tried to bring one once, but his camel threw it off a cliff. He still complains about it. Khnum snorts. Good. Serves him right for bringing a rock to a sand fight. Marcus calls you over to his tent, where a chest of silver and gold is laid out. He opens it, and the metal glints in the torchlight. I'll give you 100 silver coins for the gold dust, he says. You shake your head, pulling out your stick. It's now the 5th notch after sunset, you say. By tomorrow's sunrise, the Bedouins will be in the market. They'll pay twice that for pure Nubian gold. But I like you, Marcus, 150 gold coins, and it's yours. Marcus's eyes widen, and Khnum hides a smile. You drive a hard bargain for an apprentice, Marcus says. Fine. 150 gold coins. But only if you teach me how to read that stick. You laugh and agree. Later, as you're showing Marcus the notches on your stick, Khnum pulls you aside. Academic debate, historians still debate why Meroë fell. Some say it was the Romans, some say it was a drought. But I think it was because we forgot our roots. Later kings started using Roman sundials instead of shadow sticks, started trading silk instead of gold. You can't be Nubian if you don't respect the sun and its shadows. He taps your stick. Don't ever forget that. This stick is more than a tool, it's who we are. The feast goes on late into the night. You dance with Nubian girls, sing with the Roman sailors, and eat so many honey cakes your stomach hurts. Khnum tells stories of his first trip to the gold mines, how he got lost and used his shadow stick to find his way back. Marcus buys him a cup of wine, and even though it's terrible, Khnum drinks it with a smile. Life's too short to refuse free wine, he says. Even bad wine. As the moon rises, you and Khnum walk back to his house in Meroë. The city is quiet, most people asleep, but a few lanterns burn in the windows. You pass a group of children sleeping in the street, huddled together for warmth, and Khnum leaves a handful of gold coins next to them. They're orphans from the gold mines, he says. Their fathers died digging for gold. We take care of our own. His house is a small mud brick hut, with a courtyard where he keeps his camels. He shows you to a room with a bed of palm leaves and a chest for your things. Tomorrow, you'll start your own trade route, he says. To the Red Sea. The traders there pay in pearls, which are lighter than gold. You'll take 3 camels, 2 miners, and your stick. And remember, trust the shadow more than the stars. Stars lie. Shadows don't. You nod, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Khnum claps you on the shoulder. You're ready. I knew it when you told the Egyptian captain the time. You have the eye for shadows, something you can't teach. It's in your blood, even if you're not from here. He turns to leave, then pauses. Oh, and one more thing, don't eat the Roman honey cakes before bed. Give you nightmares about sundials. He winks, and you laugh. You lie down on the palm leaves, listening to the sound of camels snoring in the courtyard. Outside, the moon casts a shadow of your stick on the wall, long and thin, pointing toward the door. You think about the Red Sea, about pearls, about the traders you'll meet. You think about Khnum, about the miners, about the kids sleeping in the street. All of them connected by gold, by shadows, by Nubia. You close your eyes, and the last thing you see is the shadow on the wall, steady and true. Tomorrow, a new journey begins. Tonight, you're home. The next morning, you wake up before sunrise, the courtyard still dark. Khnum is already there, loading gold onto 3 camels. The miners, 2 young men named Ambience and Set, are checking their water bags. Sunrise in 30 minutes, Khnum says, handing you a cup of tea. We'll leave when the first light hits the pyramid tops. The Red Sea is 2 days' ride, but if we follow the shadow sticks, we'll make it in 1.5. The pearl traders are waiting, they won't stay past the full moon. You sip the tea, warm and spicy, and check your stick. You've carved a few extra notches into it, just to be safe. Ambience walks over, grinning. Heard you outsmarted Marcus the Roman, he says. My sister saw you, she says you're the best trader in Meroë, next to Khnum. You laugh, shaking your head. I'm still learning. Set joins in. Learning fast. Khnum hasn't let an apprentice handle the Red Sea route in 10 years. You must be special. The first light of sunrise touches the pyramids, turning their stone tops pink. Khnum mounts his camel, and you climb onto yours. Mainstream lesson: the Red Sea trade route is how our gold gets to India, China, even as far as Rome. We trade gold for pearls, silk, and spices, things we can't grow in the desert. The route was founded by my grandfather, who used a shadow stick to find water in the desert when his caravan got lost. He always said the sun is our best guide. The camels start walking, and the desert stretches out before you. The sun climbs higher, and you stick your stick into the sand, watching the shadow shrink. Weird fact: pearl traders in the Red Sea use the shadow of their boats to tell when the oysters are ripe. When the shadow is as long as the boat, the oysters have pearls. When it's half as long, they're still growing. They learned it from us, of course. Khnum laughs. Though they'll never admit it. By noon, the shadow on your stick is a tiny dot. You stop at a small oasis to rest, and Ambience pulls out a leather bag of flatbread and cheese. Academic debate time: historians still debate whether the Nubians reached America. There's a story about a sailor who got lost in a storm and landed on a continent with tall trees and strange animals. He brought back a feather that no one could identify. Some say it was from a parrot, others say it was from a bird in America. Khnum says it's a lie, you can't cross the ocean with a shadow stick. He winks. But I believe it. Nubians can go anywhere. You eat quickly and get back on the camels. The afternoon sun is hot, but the wind is cool, blowing off the Red Sea. You can smell salt in the air, a welcome change from camel dung and myrrh. Khnum points ahead, where the desert meets the water, blue and endless, stretching to the horizon. There it is, he says. The Red Sea. The pearl traders are in the village by the shore. They'll be impressed we're early, thanks to your shadow reading. The village comes into view, small huts made of palm leaves, boats pulled up on the beach. A group of men with pearl necklaces around their necks are waiting for you, waving. You and Khnum climb off the camels, and the lead trader, a man named Hassan with a white beard, greets you. Khnum. And the apprentice who reads shadows, he says, shaking your hand. We heard about you. Come, we have pearls, fresh from the oysters. And cold water, your camels will thank you. You follow Hassan to his hut, where he spreads out a cloth covered in pearls, white, pink, and black, glowing like little moons. These are worth more than gold in India, he says. A black pearl like this will buy you a house in Alexandria. Khnum nods at you, and you take out your stick. It's now the third notch afternoon, you say. We can trade now, or we can wait until the shadow hits the fourth notch, when the other traders arrive. They'll pay more, but you'll have to share. Hassan smiles. You're smart. I'll give you 20 black pearls for the gold dust. That's more than the other traders will offer. You agree, and Hassan hands over the pearls, which you tuck into a leather bag. Outside, the sun is starting to set, painting the Red Sea orange. You and Khnum walk down to the beach, and you dip your feet in the water. It's cool and salty. You did good, Khnum says, watching the waves. You're a real Nubian trader now. Not just an apprentice. He pulls out a small gold ring, carved with a shadow stick symbol, and slips it onto your finger. For luck. My grandfather gave it to me, and now I'm giving it to you. You look at the ring, then at the sunset. The shadow of your stick stretches long across the sand, pointing toward the ocean. You think about everything you've learned, everything you've seen. The gold mines, the Nile, the pyramids, the Red Sea. The traders, the miners, the Bedouins, the Romans. All of them connected by the sun and its shadows, by the gold that glints in the light. You're not just a trader, you're a part of Nubia, a part of history. And as long as you have your stick, you'll never be lost. The ride back to Meroë is slower, the camels loaded with pearls instead of gold. The sun is gentle in the morning, and you let the breeze ruffle your hair as you ride. Ambience and Set sing songs in Nubian, their voices mixing with the sound of the camels' hooves. Khnum rides ahead, his stick held high, and you watch his shadow stretch across the sand. It's a familiar sight now, comforting, like a friend. Mainstream knowledge, Nubian pearls were once given as gifts to the Queen of Sheba, Khnum calls back to you. She visited Meroë 1,000 years ago, and our king gave her a necklace of black pearls. They say she cried when she saw it, said it was more beautiful than any jewel in her kingdom. Now, your pearls could end up on the neck of the emperor's wife in Rome. Not bad for an apprentice. You laugh, and Set tosses you a date. Weird fact, Nubian traders used to hide gold in camel dung to avoid Bedouins. The Bedouins would search the camels, but they'd never touch the dung. My uncle did it once. He came back with a bag of gold and a very smelly camel. His wife made him sleep outside for a week. Ambience snorts. I still tease him about it. calls him "dumb trader" when he's not looking. By noon, you stop at the same oasis where you rested on the way to the Red Sea. A group of travelers from Egypt are there, filling their water bags. They recognize Khnum and wave, and he invites them to share our food. One of them, a scholar with a long beard, asks about your stick. "Is that a shadow clock?" he says, eyes wide. "I've read about them in Egyptian scrolls, but I've never seen one used." You smile and show him the notches, explaining how it works. The scholar nods, impressed. "Fascinating. The Egyptians use sundials, but they're not as portable. You Nubians are clever." Khnum pulls you aside as the scholars pack up to leave. Academic debate. Historians still debate whether Nubian culture influenced Egyptian culture, or the other way around. The scholar says we copied shadow clocks from them, but we know better. Our stick is older, simpler, and works better in the desert. They copied our gold smelting techniques, our trade routes, even our gods. But they'll never admit it. Pride, you know. He rolls his eyes. Egyptians have more pride than a camel with a gold saddle. The afternoon passes quickly, and you see Meroë in the distance as the sun starts to set. The city is alive with activity, traders coming and going, kids chasing goats, women selling food in the market. You ride through the gates, and people wave, recognizing Khnum and his caravan. Marcus the Roman is waiting for you, grinning. "I heard you got pearls," he says. "Show me, my wife has been begging for a pearl necklace." "I'll pay gold, I promise." You and Khnum follow Marcus to his tent, where you spread out the pearls. Marcus's eyes widen, and he gasps when he sees the black ones. "These are perfect," he says. "I'll give you 300 gold coins for the lot. And I want you to teach my son how to read that stick. He's going to be a trader someday, and he needs to learn from the best." You agree, and Marcus hands over the gold coins, which you count carefully. Khnum nods, satisfied. "Good deal. You're learning to be a businessman, not just a shadow reader." That night, there's a feast in Meroë to celebrate your successful trip. The villagers bring food, roasted lamb, lentils, flatbread, honey cakes, and Khnum opens a barrel of his best beer. You dance with the miners' wives, sing with the sailors, and tell stories of your trip to the Red Sea. Marcus's son, a young boy named Lucius, sits at your feet, asking questions about the shadow stick. You show him the notches, and he copies them into the sand with a stick, grinning. "I'm going to be a Nubian trader," he says. "Just like you." As the feast winds down, Khnum pulls you aside to the courtyard of his house. The moon is full, casting silver light on the camels. "You're ready to lead your own caravan," he says, his voice serious. "Next month, there's a gold shipment going to Alexandria. I want you to take it. You'll have 10 camels, 5 miners, and your stick. You'll meet with the pharaoh's traders, negotiate the price, and come back with silver. It's a big job, but I trust you." You feel a surge of pride, and you nod. "I won't let you down." Khnum claps you on the back. "I know. You've got the Nubian spirit, tough, smart, and always watching the shadows. Remember, the sun is your guide, the stick is your tool, and the gold is your legacy. Now, go get some sleep. You'll need it for the journey. You walk to your room, the gold ring on your finger glowing in the moonlight. Outside, the wind whispers through the palm trees, and you hear the distant sound of a camel's bell. Tomorrow, you'll start planning your trip to Alexandria. Tonight, you're a trader, a Nubian, and home. The next morning, you wake up early, eager to start planning the Alexandria trip. Khnum is already in the courtyard, talking to a miner named Bakery, an older man with a scar across his cheek, who's led caravans to Egypt dozens of times. Bakery will be your second in command, Khnum says when he sees you. He knows the road to Alexandria like the back of his hand. Listens to him, and you'll be fine. Bakery nods, shaking your hand. I've heard about your shadow reading, he says. Khnum says you're better than he was at your age. High praise. You and Bakery spend the morning going over the route. He spreads out a map made of leather, marked with notches for shadow times. Mainstream tip: the road to Alexandria goes through the eastern desert, which is drier than the Sahara. We'll need to carry extra water, enough for 10 days. The oases are few and far between, and will only reach the first one when the shadow hits the second notch after sunrise. If we miss it, we'll be in trouble. He taps the map. This is where the Bedouins usually wait, they know the oases too. But with your shadow stick, we can arrive early, before they get there. You nod, making notes on a piece of papyrus with a reed pen. Weird fact: Bedouins use the shadow of a palm tree to mark their camps. They plant a palm branch in the sand, and when its shadow points north, that's where they build their tents. It's a trick they learned from us, but they won't admit it. Bakery laughs. I once saw a Bedouin chief argue with Khnum about who invented shadow reading. Khnum challenged him to a bet: whoever could tell the time first would get a bag of gold. Khnum won, of course. The Bedouin was so mad, he rode off without his camel. By noon, you and Bakery have planned the entire trip, leave Meroë at sunrise, reach the first oasis by mid-morning, the second by sunset, and Alexandria in 5 days. Khnum brings over a leather bag filled with gold coins. This is for supplies, he says. Buy water, food, and extra camel saddles. And don't trust the Egyptian traders in the desert, they'll try to cheat you. Use your stick to prove you're on time, and they'll respect you. He winks. Or use the gold. Gold always works. You and Bakery go to the market to buy supplies. The market is busy, filled with traders from all over Africa and the Mediterranean. You buy water skins, flatbread, and cheese, and Bakery haggles with a camel trader for extra saddles. A group of Nubian women walk by, carrying baskets of dates, and one of them, Ammonia's sister, Nefertiti, stops to talk. I heard you're leading a caravan to Alexandria, she says, smiling. Be careful. The Egyptians are tricky. My brother says you're smart, though. She hands you a leather pouch filled with red clay paste. For the desert. Keeps the sun off. As you're leaving the market, you run into Marcus and his son Lucius. Lucius runs over, holding a stick he's carved with notches. Look, he says, showing it to you. I practiced last night. Can you tell me what time it is? You look at the stick's shadow, then at the sun. It's just past noon, you say. Lucius's eyes widen. You're right. My father's sundial says the same thing. Marcus laughs. He's obsessed. I think he's going to move to Nubia and become a shadow reader. Back at Khnum's house, you and Bakery pack the supplies onto the camels. Khnum pulls you aside, his voice serious. Academic debate. Historians still debate whether how much gold Nubia actually had. Some say we had enough to cover the entire desert in gold leaf, others say it was just a small amount that we traded wisely. I say it doesn't matter, we had enough to build pyramids, feed our people, and make the Egyptians jealous. That's all that counts. He claps you on the back. Now, get some sleep. Tomorrow, you're leading your first caravan. Make me proud. You lie down on your bed of palm leaves, thinking about the journey ahead. You're nervous, but also excited. Leading a caravan to Alexandria is a big responsibility, but you have your stick, your gold ring, and Bakery by your side. You look at the stick propped against the wall, its shadow cast by the moonlight. It's been with you since your first day in Nubia, a constant companion. Tomorrow, it will guide you to Egypt, to new traders, to new adventures. You close your eyes, and the last thing you hear is the sound of camels snoring in the courtyard. Tomorrow, a new chapter begins. The first light of sunrise filters through your window, and you're up before the rooster crows. The courtyard is alive with activity. Bakery and the miners are loading the last of the supplies onto the camels, and Khnum is checking the water skins. Lucius runs over, holding his stick. Good luck, he says, handing you a small clay figurine of a camel. My mother made it. It's for protection. You thank him, tucking the figurine into your robe. Khnum walks over, handing you a cup of tea. Mainstream lesson: Alexandria is the biggest city in the Mediterranean. It has a library with thousands of scrolls, a lighthouse that can be seen from miles away, and traders from every corner of the world. The pharaoh's traders will be in the market district, wearing purple robes. They'll try to lowball you, but hold firm. Our gold is the purest in the world, worth twice what they'll offer. You sip the tea, and Bakery calls out that the caravan is ready. You climb onto your camel, and Khnum holds onto its reins for a moment. Remember, trust your stick, trust Bakery, and trust yourself. You're a Nubian trader now. Act like it. He lets go, and the camel starts walking. The miners cheer, and Lucius waves until you're out of sight. The road to Alexandria stretches ahead, golden and endless, and the sun climbs higher in the sky. Weird fact: Egyptians mummify their cats, Bakery says, riding next to you. My cousin worked in a tomb once. He found a room full of mummified cats, each wrapped in linen and wearing gold collars. They even had little cat-sized sarcophagi. Can you believe it? I'd never mummify a cat. Mine eats my dates when I'm not looking. He laughs. Though I guess if it was wearing a gold collar, I might reconsider.